Welcome to the future. Technologies and innovations that sculpt our industry.
This episode brought to you by Kaiser Warren, committed to reducing the carbon footprint and helping businesses embrace eco-friendly practices. Learn more at kaiserwarren.com.
All right, everyone, thank you for joining us. We're hanging out at the 2024 National HVACR Education Conference. We're spending some time with our friends from Kaiser Warren. How are you guys doing?
Very good, thanks.
You want to introduce yourselves before we get hopping in here?
Yeah, I'm Dale Sizemore with Kaiser Warren, Director of Technical Services. I've been there, starting my 30th year in June.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
I am Ignacio Chaparro. I am doing the new product development and new technologies. Almost 18 years in May.
All right, so you guys have both seen a lot of changes in our industry, right? So I'm a refrigeration geek at heart. So I get it. This is going to be a good conversation. You know, I started in the late 90s. And I started in a commercial refrigeration, but I was working on a lot of small products. So I was still working on a lot of CFC equipment, right? So I got to see that CFC phase out. I got to see the HCFC phase out. We're currently in this HFC phase down. The thing that we really have to focus on is, as educators, many of us have worked on what we might call a traditional refrigerant, even though it's not really. You know, we've seen a variety of changes in refrigerants, but we're actually starting to make a migration back into our natural refrigerants. So a long time, if we actually trace the history of refrigerants, CO2 was a very, very popular refrigerant when we were talking about commercial ice manufacturing back into the turn of the last century, not this one, right? CO2 is a fantastic refrigerant, but unfortunately, we started working with some refrigerants that were under less pressure, that had environmental consequences. And so as a world, we are transitioning away from our HFC refrigerants. And there are other refrigerants out there like HFOs. But when we talk about long-term, our natural refrigerants are most have no ozone depleting potential, have very low global warming potential, and really is the way that we're going to succeed going forward. But many of us educators were technicians in the field. And so we may not have had a lot of experience with things like CO2. So let's talk a little bit about where Kaiser Warren is moving forward in the industry and moving into our natural refrigerants.
Yes. Our focus is on natural refrigerants at this point. We still build the traditional equipment. It's still the majority of what we build, but the natural refrigerants are growing. They're doubling almost every year.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
Production.
Okay.
Our direction is transcritical CO2.
Yes.
We call TCO2.
Yep.
For short. And that's the direction we picked. There are many options out there with CO2, and yes, yeah. There are many options out there with CO2 and with liquid overfeed and combination racks and combinations of CO2 and glycol. There's different customers going different ways. One thing that causes is this separation of the training. It makes the training and the technician
like almost two paths.
Yeah, well, multiple paths.
Okay.
So the technicians, for us, we feel like if we can get going in the same direction, the gap for those technicians is going to be smaller, because if you're doing transcritical with CO2, if you're doing liquid overfeed and glycol and DX and top cycles and things, so you have to know all those things.
Right. All the different components.
Got to know all the different components. Transcritical CO2 is relatively simple. It's traditional refrigeration at a higher pressure.
Right.
So we like to teach it that way, that it's a shorter putt for a technician that's already proficient at parallel refrigeration.
Right, exactly. So they have a base understanding of the refrigeration principles.
Yes.
So what are we doing for training? I know we see a lot of online training for CO2. We've actually been working on some content for CO2, but I'm a hands-on kind of guy. So what opportunities are out there for educators to be able to work on some of this hands-on stuff before it actually gets into the classrooms?
Mm-hmm. Yes. We at Kaiser Warren, we have two different facility trainings. Mm-hmm. One in Irwindale, California, in Anaheim, and another one in Columbus, Georgia. And on those two facilities, we have full equipment in operation.
Okay.
We have a CO2 transcritical system with multiple display cases connected. And we have also the new technologies that we are pushing into the industry to create high efficiency systems.
Sure.
So those two facilities will have those technologies implemented that people go see, touch them, and understand how they do work.
And how long are the training classes themselves?
The training classes, if we go on site, that will be at least one full day.
Mm-hmm.
They will get the theory of how the system works, the different technologies. Also, they do get information about the installation of the system, because that's another important part for technicians.
Yes, absolutely.
Understand what are the safety measures that they need to take. And also, as Dale was saying, this system is very similar to the HFC, so they can understand the differences and get more comfortable with that.
We really push hard on the safety of the CO2.
Yeah, definitely.
Because everybody's scared of that. And we want to get that word out there that done correctly and with the proper safeties and installed correctly, it's stable, it's safe, for the technician at least. So,
yes, a lot of people get intimidated because of the pressures the system operates at.
That's the thing I hear the most.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we try to put the word there, what are the safeties that we consider and how the systems are designed to overcome that issue. The pressures is not issue anymore. It's just handling the system properly.
Absolutely. When we think about moving forward with our refrigerants, we're going to have safety concerns with any refrigerant that we work with.
100%.
We are seeing A2Ls that are a mildly flammable refrigerant. We have our A3s that are highly flammable refrigerants. So safety is going to be one of the most important things going forward with training. And so understanding how those systems operate and how to safely work on those. Another question that I get out in the industry is, these are just large tonnage systems, aren't they? Isn't it just for the big stuff?
Well, in the majority, yes, but there are some systems coming in, like small condensing units.
Yes.
We do have developed small condensing units for smaller applications, like 5 tons, 6 tons, 7
Really?
tons. Yes.
Wow, okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, yes, because we know in order to have that implementation in the industry for remodels or expansion,
Yes.
they cannot close down the full store to make the full retrofit. So they need a ways to make the change.
Yeah, have a bridge.
Yeah. Also, if you're in a transition from HFC to CO2 and you have to do something in between, but you're not ready
to make
dump
the full
this
transition.
so to say, then you can do this small system. Like in California, if you have a traditional store already with the regulations there and it's HFC, you can't add horsepower.
Right.
Now, you could take one of these small units, add it as CO2 as natural.
It's a complementary system.
Yes. And then if you eventually remodel the store and everything's totally converted over to CO2, you can either keep that unit or you can take it off, put it on a rack.
Okay. And that is a big concern going forward, is that we don't have unified legislation on our refrigerants. You would think that we would, as a nation, go, okay, this is where we are going, and we're all doing it at the same time. But we know that a lot of our states have more stringent regulations than what we may set at national standards. Do you see any states in particular that are going with CO2 faster than others?
California and New York.
Yes, California and New York. California, actually, they implemented their regulations in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So from 2022 to now, any new systems with more than 50 pounds have to have refrigerants with less than 150 GWP number.
There's not a lot of them.
Not a lot of them. Exactly. New York is going that way, and actually they are pushing even harder than that. They are going to go 10 GWP number.
10.
So that's even more difficult to do that.
Wow, that really is limiting your options.
Mm.
Yeah.
But also, we also know that the EPA, they have a final rule trying to do the transition as well.
Yes.
So 2027, 26 and 27 will be coming across the country.
Yeah.
So we'll see the push of those natural refrigerants more and more.
Yeah, we've had a lot of conversations on our show talking about the technology transition rule, and people look at that as going, okay, this is what we have to prepare for. And we go, no. You have to be aware of the technology transition rule, but you have to be aware of what states are doing that are even more stringent than that.
That's right.
And so if I'm an educator and I'm looking at what the future of refrigeration is, I absolutely need to be implementing CO2 into my curriculums now, or at least being able to go out and go to the training facilities at Kaiser Warren and learn how to work on these pieces of equipment.
That's right.
To be able to start implementing that into the classroom.
That's right. That's something that we talk about a lot in our sessions and on-site sessions and our tables at the shows and things like that. If you're not already planning that, you're not already working towards that, you're already
behind.
you're behind. Yeah. So it's coming down like a freight train, and
Yeah.
we're not stopping it.
No.
So we have to get the for me as a technician by trade, I feel like we owe it to the trade not to let them, it sneak up on them and catch them by surprise, because it's going to be ugly if there's not enough
you're not
people out
prepared.
there to work on it and
Yeah.
install them and
Yeah.
build them. We don't think there's enough manufacturing space for what's coming.
Yeah.
Yes, and one of the benefits, as he's saying, is the good part of CO2 transcritical systems is that they are the same concept
Right.
as a
Still refrigeration.
It's
Yes,
conventional.
still.
Yes, exactly. So for technicians, if they are proficient with HFCs, going to CO2, let's say they have at least 80% already covered.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
20% is the difference between HFCs and CO2 systems.
When we look at CO2 systems in general, I know, like in my state of Indiana, some of my grocery stores were implementing CO2 systems almost a decade ago. And so we're not talking about educating technicians for the future. We're talking about educating technicians for systems that are already out there that are now entering into their service age.
Right.
And I think as a generation are very far behind. Even myself, I'm fairly far behind on CO2, but I've been out of the industry for about 6 years. So even as an educator myself, I have a lot of brushing up to do. So I know there's many educators out there that are needing these resources. So what are some good ways to connect with Kaiser Warren? Come to the conference, obviously. I mean, we have almost 1,200 educators here that are wanting to connect, but we have a lot of educators that are going to be joining us. We also have technicians that are in their van right now going, you know what? I'd like to work on some of that bigger stuff, but I don't know where to begin. So let's talk about some resources from Kaiser Warren that we can connect with.
Yes, definitely. Going to our website, there is information for the CO2 systems in the website. They can contact our marketing department, and they can direct them to the people that can work with them on the training sessions.
Okay.
That will be the main way to do.
With our two competing hands-on facilities, one in Anaheim and one in Columbus, Georgia, we're also looking at tools to help us with that, putting online calendars. All that will start showing up. We're still in the infant stages of getting that part of technology set up so that we can get the word out. Right now, word of mouth, we can't even support the demand we have. So when we put it out there in public, we got to
You get to be prepared for it.
Right. It's going to be this mad push because there's a lot of people out there. And today, everybody's looking for a business card. Everybody, hey, can you help us out with material or stuff and training? Can we come to your place and learn how to? Absolutely, you can do that. It's finding that spot, finding that date when it works for everybody, and getting them in there. Ignacio and I both have day jobs, and we do the training. This is what we love to do, and we want to get the word out there, but. We're going to push as hard as we can for the years we got left in the business. So
Isn't it fun though?
yeah, it's great. It's great. And it's buying time for me. I've been doing refrigeration for 42 years, and I don't, we've had more changes in the last 10 years than they did the whole first 32.
I think this year, 2024 is going to be almost a pivotal point for our industry.
Yeah, I agree.
I think this is a year.
Time to put up or shut up.
It is. It is. We've had so many conversations here in these podcasts of we've went too many years as industry competitors and not been industry partners. And so now you're seeing industry competitors coming to the stage, just like you are today, going, at the end of the day, we all have things. We're all salespeople of something.
Absolutely.
You
get paid.
You got to get paid. But the important part is everyone is saying, but together we're going to push an industry further.
Yeah.
And the light bulbs are just, they're glowing so bright. It's a beautiful time to be in this industry.
100%. And I've never seen the collaboration in all the years with these events like NASRC or we were in Pittsburgh last week. We got Anaheim. We got Irwindale coming up in 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
We'll be out there again. And those are free events for technicians, by the way. So technicians, if they hook up with those folks, they can go there and they get similar to what you get here for trainers.
Right.
They're getting technical training, and we go into a lot more in-depth stuff there.
Really? All right. So
For the technicians, for install service and being specific about TCO2 equipment.
wow.
Yes, and in those kind of sessions, you can have a little bit of everything. We have OEMs going to do the trainings. We we have compressor manufacturers, controls manufacturers, component manufacturer. Everybody's doing the training.
Joining in.
Yes, joining in and providing information to the technicians so that they know a little bit of everything in those kind of sensors. And as they said, it's free training.
It's free training.
They just need to
It's agnostic.
Yeah.
We're not there trying to sell technicians. They don't buy equipment for the most
Yeah.
part. And we're trying to help. We're trying to get the industry and get the word out there and get it built up so that there's more people available to do the work we need done. We need good installers. We need good service people. As a manufacturer, if you don't have that, then it causes you a lot more issues.
Warranty returns,
everything.
failed
Happy
components.
customers.
Happy
Happy
customers.
Yeah, for sure. You want that.
Absolutely.
Yes, and also not only that part, but also we need technicians that they are able to install the systems for the end users to buy the systems and start doing the transition.
They're like,
because-
none of my contractors want to do this.
Yeah. So think about that. If I'm an educator and one of my most important numbers is my placement, right?
Yes.
Where am I placing my technicians and what type of salary are they making when they leave this program? We're not talking about entry level jobs. When we get into our refrigeration, we're talking about high demand, high paying careers that are incredibly stable, that are not going away.
They're only growing.
That's only growing.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking to implement CO2 training into my program, here's a great place to start.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And you were talking about regulations before.
Yeah.
So we know that EPA, they put the regulation out for 2027.
Yeah.
So starting 2027, they will see more and more of these systems that we are seeing right now.
Absolutely.
Going to multiply at a much faster rate.
I believe that. I like to follow what's happening internationally and see the different product changes that are happening. A lot of people don't even realize, like, we've got CO2 in automotive air conditioning systems right now.
Yep.
Yes.
And people go, what? Wait a minute.
Yep.
In vehicles and in small tonnage systems? Yeah, absolutely. CO2 is a very, very useful, very environmentally friendly refrigerant. And as we make this HFC slide, I call it's a slide.
Yes.
We're at right now a 40% reduced production of HFCs based on GWP, which means all of our HFCs are going to see a significant increase in price and a lack of availability. We've already seen transitions in our distributors that are making agreements and arrangements with their contractors that if you're not reclaiming and bringing back refrigerant, we're not even selling you because we're not going to have access to it. And let's think about just for a minute, let's talk about the access of CO2 as a refrigerant. There's really not a life expectancy of CO2.
Nope.
Because it doesn't qualify on any of that.
We call it future proof.
Yeah.
So if you put in CO2, there's very low probability, unless some magical thing comes out of the blue that's not there yet.
Yeah. None of our
CO2
chemical
never goes
manufacturers.
away. You can use it forever.
Exactly. All of our
System's never going to be obsoleted again.
Exactly. You're always going to have access to refrigerant.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we look at
And they can make as much CO2 as we want, and you can vent it. There's no law.
think about the
Crazy.
change of regulations if we would do something natural.
In some ways, it's easier to service because they're not confined in there with laws where they're worried about getting in trouble for accidentally venting.
Yeah.
Because there's
Leak
no,
rate
there's no-
requirements.
there's no commercially available. That needs to be ironed out. That's a whole nother. There's no requirement for when you service a piece of equipment that you have to reclaim it. There's no commercially available reclaimer for CO2 gas.
Yeah. Wow, that does make you think a little bit differently about that, because we're going to see, like, even with when we talk about what we call in a residential our new refrigerants, they're really not new refrigerants. They're just HFCs, right? And HFC blends. We've got a shelf life of no more than 12 years. That's the reality. When we look at the HFC phase down and realize that both R32 and 454B are in that shelf life of the HFC phase down, they're going to become scarce, just like the others, as we continue the HFC phase down. And the reintroduction of natural refrigerants into every aspect of HVAC and refrigeration, I think, will be here faster than people realize.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's coming like a steamroller.
Yes, it is. Well, I'm glad we have this conversation.
Yes,
it really
good.
brings some light into where we're going because, I feel it. And now that we see it from our manufacturers and know that our manufacturers are amping up the educational opportunity and educational outreach, that's a big statement.
It's the right thing to do.
It is. It is.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Anything else you guys like to cover while we're here?
Appreciate you having us.
Yeah, this is so
you very
cool.
much. Yep.
So the website is, once again,
Sizemore.com.
okay. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.